Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever. We are in a Jubilee Year in the life of the Church, called for by Pope St. John Paul II, 25 years after the celebration of the millennium in the year 2000. I was blessed last week to be in Rome for a gathering of priests addressed by three of the greatest cardinals in the Church, Cardinals Burke, Muller, and Cardinal Sarah. They all spoke of persecuted Christians and gave their blessing to Nazarene and all our supporters. One of the great joys of the Jubilee Year is that two very important canonisations will take place, one in April and one in August. As I remind you often, and it's worth being reminded, especially if you have to engage in any form of discussion of the faith with non-believers, saints are our friends. They pray for us just as we ask friends and family to pray for us, and they are role models and exemplars. In times of crisis in the Church, God does not ask for structural changes, still less an adaptation by the Church to the ways of the world. He asks for holiness. That's why he always gives us saints who speak to the times. Some, as we know, seem to last through the ages, others fade somewhat. During this Jubilee, two very important role models and exemplars will be canonized. Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati, who died in 1925 at the age of 24, and Blessed Carlo Acutis, who died in 2006 at the age of 15. You probably know much about them, but if not, this week's Nugget will give you a little idea why they are important and why God has raised them up at this particular time. They are both young, and they both died young. Carlo from leukemia and Pier Giorgio from polio. I hesitate to use the word normal, as that might imply being a faithful and faith-filled young Catholic is somehow odd, but they were indeed normal. Carlo with his computer games, which, by the way, he restricted himself to 2 hours a week, very impressive discipline, and Pier Giorgio mountain climbing, hiking, and going to the theatre. There are two or three qualities which united these two young men, soon to be saints and exemplars for the Church in the 21st century, and reasons why we should know them and honour them and give them to our young people. The first is the Eucharist. They both had a tremendous devotion to the Eucharist. Pier Giorgio often spent nights in adoration after returning from a hike, Carlo persuading his not very devout parents to come to daily Mass. The second is what Blessed Pier Giorgio called the apostolate of good example. Both he and Carlo had a love for the poor and the needy. They embodied practical Catholic charity rooted in the Eucharist. When Pier Giorgio died, thousands of ordinary people lined the streets of Turin. The next gift they both had was what Pier Giorgio called the apostolate of persuasion. They didn't talk about the new evangelization or attend diocesan seminars or synods. They brought others to Christ by word and example. Among others, Carlo converted the Hindu au pair his parents had hired, and Pier Giorgio regularly encouraged people, lukewarm people, to come to the Church. In this time, God is giving us two young men who were faithful Catholics, who lived the virtues, who loved the Mass, and who brought others to Christ by word and example. Saints Carlo and Pier Giorgio, pray for us. Brethren, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, like a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour.